Hey kids, Aussie Moto Matt coming at you from Jimboomba in the south of Queensland this morning. It is about the 3rd or 4th of January 2017. So if you've watched this just after I've uploaded it, I will say Merry Christmas and hope you had a great New Year and all that stuff. But get that out of the way. What I'm here for today is to do a review on, let's call it a 5,000 kilometer review on my 2015 Honda VT750 C Aero, or whatever you want to call it, classic. I bought this bike at about this time actually last year, so I've had it for about 12 months after owning sports bikes before this, having a CBR 250R as my provisional motorcycle, and then a 2013 or 2014 I think it was Triumph Street Triple. So this was my first ride on a cruiser, or the first cruiser I've owned, not my first ride on a cruiser. But yeah, the first cruiser I've ever owned. I did ride quite a few other cruisers before I actually chose this. This one came down to, I felt, a couple of things. One of them being price. It was ridiculously cheap at the time, and saying that I knew that I'd either get my money back or very, very close to getting my money back when I traded it in if I didn't like it in 12 months' time. And it did everything really nice, and when I bought it, and I really liked the bike, I thought it was great. So now let's talk about it 12 months in, things I do like about it, things I don't like about it. The specs are pretty, really not available for this bike. Honda don't actually advertise peak torque or peak horsepower or anything like that. But it's roughly, from what I've read and what people have said, it's roughly about a 50 horsepower bike. It's not hugely powerful. Actually, it's not powerful at all, but it's a cruiser, so it's not really supposed to be. It's got a single disc front brake up front and a front brake in the rear. If you buy this bike in the likes of Canada or America, you can get an ABS model, and with ABS comes a rear disc and obviously combined ABS. But we're crappy in Australia and we don't get any of that fancy shit. Pros about the bike, I mean, especially after getting off a sports bike or any sort of a naked sports bike or anything like that, it was super comfy when I first got it. Felt like I could ride it a gajillion miles without having any sort of issues. And in saying that, I have done a couple of sort of 6-7 hour days, ridden 400 or 500 kilometers in a day, and it is very doable. But on the stock seat, you get a very sore tailbone after about an hour. You are really getting off every hour and having a break and stuff like that. So in stock form, as much as it's very cruiser-like, so the handlebars are pulled way back and you're sort of sitting completely upright on the bike and your legs are forward and stuff like that. It's a comfortable riding position. It's a great commuter. If you've got like a half hour, 45-minute commute to work like I do, like I've got about a 45-minute commute to work, 50-minute commute to work, it's great for that. You stay comfy for that hour. But after that, it's not a nice place to be. It's super cheap to run. In cruising, like doing between 90 and 100 kilometers an hour, so about 55, 60 mile an hour, it barely uses any fuel. It's only got a 14 litre tank, but when you're using 3.5 litres per 100 kilometers, which I can't convert that into miles per gallon, it's about 45 or something miles per gallon, 50 miles per gallon or something. It's super cheap to run. Like I've done 275 kilometers, and I haven't actually got a fuel light on yet. I'm not expecting to see a fuel light on until about 350 k's out of the out of probably about 12 litres of fuel when the light comes on is normally what you put into it. So yeah, super cheap on fuel if you're looking for something that's really efficient to ride. It's got, for a stock exhaust, it's got quite a nice little exhaust note. Some people reckon it's too quiet. And, I don't know, it never worried me. If I'm on a cruise, I don't really want something that's too noisy, so I thought it's got a nice little note, but not too much. Excuse me, I'm burping all over the place. Lights are good on it, they're nice and bright, nice and easy to see. Maybe put LEDs and indicators if you wanted to. Headlights, okay. I wouldn't call it fantastic, but it's okay, it does the job. Mirrors are awesome, got like little curved, I think what they like, so like almost like blind spot mirrors, so you can well and truly see right around you in the mirrors. This bike is not good. I'm just on 6 foot, and one of the things I looked into for quite a while with Ford, moving the pegs further forward. You can buy 4 and 6 inch forward control pegs, which would have made this bike a lot more comfortable for the rider. But again, in Australia, by the time you import them across from the United States, you're looking at about $500 just to get forward controls. That's a bit much for me for a bike that only costs $6,000. Pillion passengers are not going to be happy. I took my wife for a ride. We did about 260 k's, just a couple of hours out. After about 70 k's, she could barely walk. Now she's not right for the moment, hasn't been on the bike in a while, but found it very uncomfortable. The rear, like the pillion passenger pegs, are way too high, and there's no real way to move them because the exhaust is in the way, so you can't really move them down. And what ends up happening is the knees are and the legs are actually up quite high, and Lee's about 5'7", I guess, something like that. So even she's not super tall, but yeah, her legs were at an uncomfortable angle the whole time, and she was trying to move around to get comfortable. And the rear seat, as much as it looks comfy, it's really not. Honda haven't invested too much money clearly in the foam of what they've done in the saddle. They're obviously expecting people to spend money on aftermarket parts on this bike. So yeah, definitely not a 2-up bike. The suspension handles it fine. You can twist it up. It's only got preload adjustment on the rear suspension, but you can turn it up. You just twist it up if you want. So you can do it on the fly when you're not on the fly, but if you're on a ride and you're finding it a bit soft, you can just twist it up a bit. You don't have to. There's no C-span or anything required to do that. The dash is it's a cruiser dash, so it's got nothing, as you can see there. It's basically got a hot engine light. It's got a check engine light, which I always think is really funny every time I look at when I turn the bike on, because it's a picture of a V8, which is not quite what's in this. Again, Honda saving money. It's got 2 trip computers and an odometer, and that's about it. And then, like I said, up the front there, you can see it's got a fuel light and stuff like that. But that's it. It's very, 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 very basic. At over 90 kilometers an hour, it actually gets the vibrations really start to come through. The only place they don't come through is through the handlebars, and that's because they're actually down here, they're actually rubber mounted, so that takes out a lot of the vibrations into the handlebars, but everything comes through the pegs, so and through the saddle, so you end up with anything over about 90, you really start to feel that the bike's working. It really feels like the bike needs a 6th gear, which would have helped just to bring those revs down just a little bit, and would have made it, being able to cruise at say 100. If you're looking to cruise at more than 90, really, 90, maybe 100 kilometers an hour, this is not the bike for you. Absolute flat out pinned as fast as it would go. I had it up to about 150, I think. and at that it was absolutely screaming its guts out, and really it wasn't happy about doing it at all. So if you're looking for a fast cruiser, no, not if you're looking for a long distance cruiser, no, it's not it. If you're looking for, look, if you're looking to get into riding cruises, or starting to get into doing maybe, or thinking about doing long distance riding, these are super cheap. Like I said, this cost me $7,000. I'm about to trade it for about the same amount of money, hopefully, or at least close to it. And then if you buy them second hand, like you can buy a 2013 model, which unfortunately again in Australia is actually a carbureted model, it's not even fuel injected. You can get them for $3 or $4,000. So if you're looking for something cheap, and it's a Honda, so you know it could have 1,000,000 miles on it, and it's a Honda, it's going to keep going. So that's about it. I hope I haven't babbled on for too long, but that's what it is. Like Sock said, so short low speed trips, so to speak, are great. So like look, so up to an hour. So if you're doing an hour cruise around somewhere, you know, maybe going on a Saturday ride or a Sunday ride or something like that, or maybe as a commuter, it's perfect. Long distance touring is definitely not going to be doing that. Two up, look, if you spent the money, maybe put an extra, a more comfortable saddle in it, maybe you could do 2 up riding on it. It'll handle it from a power point of view, and the brakes are fine on it. Like it's not going to stop on a dime like a sports bike, but again, you're not doing that really on a cruiser. But it's got enough power. I wouldn't say it's got ample power. It's got enough power to ride 2 up. You start hitting some big hills, and you'll pin it in 3rd or 4th gear, and it just won't go anywhere. But if you're just looking for a nice entry-level bike into you know, if you want to start riding cruises, it's probably perfect. Actually, I would call it the perfect bike because it's super light, super low seat. But yeah, so that's about it, guys. I hope that if you're thinking about buying one of these, I hope that sort of helped you out at least a little bit. Alrighty, Aussie Motor Matt out.